Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. A scathing report from the Federal Housing Advocate says governments are failing Inuit when it comes to housing. It says the federal government and the government of Nunavut are not upholding Inuit rights to housing, and the housing crisis facing Inuit communities is a direct result of colonialism. The report comes after Marie-Josée Houle visited Iqaluit, Pangnaktu, and Rankin Inlet last year. The CBC's Emma Tranter has more.
In Pangnaktu, there hasn't been a new build in a decade, and the waitlist for housing was over 120 families long last year, with 18 people living in a 3-bedroom house. Those were some of the findings in Marie-Josée Houle's report, which outlines the staggering lack of housing and other infrastructure in Nunavut, and the devastating health outcomes that come with it.
This is an ongoing human rights failure that needs urgent attention, and this report, it's not the first of its kind, but it must be the last.
As Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated President Aluki Kutek points out, the report is nothing new for Inuit.
I hope it ignites a refocus on how to address the Inuit housing crisis across this country. We need transformative change.
The report makes several recommendations to the federal and territorial governments, including to transfer responsibility for Inuit housing programs to Inuit governments, and to revise the funding formula for local housing authorities. The report has been sent to ministers in Nunavut and in Ottawa, and Houle says she will hold them accountable. Emma Tranter, CBC News, Iqaluit.
You just heard from Aluki Kutyuk in Emma's piece. Kutyuk points out these issues are nothing new to Inuit, but she does say she has hope that this time this report will be different. Take a listen.
What we're hoping is that the recommendations that have come out in this report are compelling enough because they share Canadian human experiences of how housing impacts on a person's ability to successfully complete education, for instance, or the ability to be able to sleep on a routine like other Canadians, or the ability to look after one's own health. My hope is that this report is compelling enough that it will stir in the hearts of Canadians, fellow Canadians, the desire to act on this, and that fellow Canadians will also communicate this to the politicians, the federal government, the territorial government, the provincial governments about how urgent this is.
This report from the Federal Housing Advocate also encompasses Nunatsiavut. Marie-Josée Houle visited Nain, Hopedale, and Happy Valley Goose Bay as well. She learned about issues that are also all too familiar for residents of Labrador's northern communities. The CBC's Ariana Kelland went to Nain to see the situation firsthand.
Worst place is right here. I actually punched a hole in here before to let it brook right into a bucket.
Kenneth Digger is a 67-year-old widower who says his needs are simple. The father and grandfather says he wants repairs, but downplays the severity of the grey and black mold that hangs over his head.
Like I said, it's livable anyway. Yeah. It is livable, yeah, for me.
In Nain, there is nowhere to buy a bucket of tar, gallon of paint, or piece of plywood. You need money and means. That's just one of the glaring problems highlighted in a new report by Canada's housing advocate, Marie-Josée Houle.
Inuit in the north are in crisis. People who have no options, have no choice.
For decades, Nain has been faced with overcrowding, hidden homelessness, and dilapidated dwellings.
A lot of the crises that Inuit are facing around housing is due to neglect, broken promises on behalf of governments.
Nain's housing dilemma can be traced back to the forced relocation of Inuit from Hebron. Dozens of families moved hundreds of kilometers in the 1950s. It created overcrowding and social problems that persist today.
Big piece of empty land, but
Nain's Anglicok, or Mayor Joe Digger, says it hasn't just persisted, it's getting worse.
we had to act like it's a crisis. We have to take it seriously. We have to do something about it now.
I got to keep the water running right, like slow. If I don't, it's going to freeze.
Back in Kenneth Dicker's home, he has little faith his conditions will improve or a new place will open up.
We don't hear anything about vacancy around here. It's not even mentioned already. Anything's vacant. They don't tell you.
After many years, he says he's gotten used to this. Uhl hopes this report will be the wake-up call Canadians need.
We can't keep this hidden any longer.
In consultation with Inuit governments, she's made a number of recommendations, including an urgent call for coordination of all levels of government to increase access to funding and supplies. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, Nain, Labrador.
An elderly Aklavik couple have been living with a faulty furnace for over a year now. Danny C. Gordon and his wife Annie say they can't control the temperature and they're worried it's unsafe. That's left them constantly waking up in the middle of the night to keep the wood stove hot. CBC's Des Loreen has their story.
This is all I can do, so I take 3 and I bring them into the house.
87-year-old Danny C. Gordon in Aklavik does this a few times a day, loading a wood stove sometimes as early as 4 in the morning. Danny and his wife Annie have been without a working furnace for 14 months. In September of 2022, it was replaced by the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation. That is when he says the problems began.
I'm always thinking about this situation, freezing up, and that's taking toll on me. I'm not thinking like I used to because I'm thinking too much about what's happening to us. Why?
The Aklavik couple built their home 32 years ago. Gordon says he isn't certified in furnace repair, but has formal training. He believes the furnace is faulty and won't use it because it stays on too long and gets too hot.
And when we step on the heat duct, it got so hot that it could have burned my skin. That's how hot it was. If I left it down there for 3 seconds, I would have to jump back out because it's hurting me, it's burning me. She uses this to haul wood in from the porch.
Gordon says he's concerned because he cannot collect his own firewood like he used to. He estimates he spent $1,800 on firewood in the last 2 months. He says IRC sent someone to examine the furnace. They looked at it for 15 minutes and didn't see the issue. CBC reached out to IRC, but they declined to comment. Des Loreen, CBC News, Inuvik.
After spending as many as 4 days without heat or electricity, life is getting back to normal for people in Arvik. A powerful blizzard tore through the community last week, knocking out power. Now that the power is back on, the community's mayor is calling for help from the Nunavut government. Joe Savikatuk Jr. says right now there's no one in Arvik who can fix power lines, meaning people need to fly in when the power goes out.
But at minimum, I think Arvik needs a dedicated lines person who is based in Arvik, out of Arvik, and I think there needs to be more maintenance done on our power system to prevent power failures from happening during high winds.
Savikatuk Jr. declared a state of local emergency late on Friday. He says he hopes other communities learn from what happened in Arvik and better prepare themselves to deal with power outages, including having generators on hand. People hoping to start holiday baking early this year are running into a sugar shortage. It's all because of a strike at the Rogers Sugar Refinery in British Columbia. The shortage is cutting the supply right across Western Canada, including here in the north. Shel Kawaja has more.
This is now pretty common in many grocery stores around Whitehorse.
We're really starting to notice it on the shelves, and going into baking season, people are looking for it. So it's on their list, and they're seeing it empty shelves.
Some customers go up and down the aisle, double checking.
I didn't know about the strike. I hadn't heard of that, and I just was searching for some sugar right now and saw the empty shelf. So I guess we won't be doing baking as we had planned.
I'm looking for Christmas baking goods, and they're all out of sugar and candied ginger. So much for the shortbread.
I usually shop at the store, so. And they don't have sugar either, so that's why I'm here. I guess I'm not making cinnamon buns.
For bakers really hoping to find some sugar, there is hope. It could be hit or miss when you go for groceries, but keep an eye out.
Well, my understanding is that right now there's the white sugar flow is coming in. There's some late stock coming into warehouses. Brown sugars are not being produced at all. So that's a really big issue. If that's a part of your recipe, one of the ingredients for grandma's cookies, we might have a problem.
And there are alternatives: honey, dates, maple syrup. Late last week, Rogers Sugar asked for mediation to help bring an end to the strike at its Vancouver refinery. The company says the union accepted mediation. If production does resume, there's no word on how long it may take to replenish local shelves to usual levels here in the north. Cheryl Kawaja, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Unionized employees with the Coral Harbour Housing Authority have a new collective agreement. It's retroactive back to April 2021 and includes a total pay increase of 9.75%. There is also an increase to the Northern Living Allowance and a lump sum payment. The union says the new agreement should help with the rising cost of living.
A cucumber was $9 the day that one of the days I was in the grocery store there, and you know, families are having a hard time keeping a roof over their head. They're working hard, and then they have to go home and put food on the table for their families. And there's nothing wrong with making sure that an employee or a member feels valued at the end of the day after working and serving, providing for their community. That's what we need in Canada, and that's definitely what we need in Nunavut.
The deal also gives workers more leave days, including days for employees or their dependents facing violence or abuse. The agreement expires in March of 2025. In sunny Ryak, Nunavut, people are preparing for a massive Christmas feast next month, and they need caribou for it. The community's acting senior administrative officer, though, says there aren't many caribou in the region to hunt.
We are extremely happy about it, and I'm happy that the council has approved the request because we will get together and have a feast. I'm grateful people will be given food because it will be for the community.
The community ordered 34 whole caribou from Arvit. Howley says the meat will cost $24,000. It was a moment she will never forget. Yellowknife's Stephanie Yule face to face with a pack of wolves, 9 of them all stalking her. The avid hiker was with 2 dogs on the weekend when the encounter happened, and as you'll hear in this conversation with the CBC's Lawrence Nayali, there was lots of screaming and yelling as she tried to keep the wolves away.
Take us back to Saturday when you were out on the land. What happened that day with these wolves?
We were having a grand old walk. I had my dog Eliza and I had my friend Kathy's dog Lazo. So we're like chilling out and we're having fun. We love bushwhacking. We go to that area all the time. I really like it because of the power lines. Mm-hmm. You really can't get lost. I mean, you can go 2 or 3 kilometers one way and you always know how to get back home. And I was walking along the shore of Fox Lake.
Yeah.
And I came around, I guess, like a little point. And as soon as I came to the other side of the point, I saw, oh, look, it's a dog team. Oh, yeah. There were 9 dogs, and they were kind of fanned out like a dog team might be. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. That's how I know that there was 9 because I counted them. And they weren't running, but they were trotting.
Yeah.
And I probably took about another 5 or 6 steps because I was thinking it's a dog team. And then they started howling, and then I started freaking out. I was scared. I'm really loath to say that I was terrified because I do not want people to get really worried. Like for me, this whole thing is about education and awareness, but I was scared. I was by myself. And so I do a lot of bear awareness training. So I know nothing about wolf behavior. My first thing is I had hiking poles and I just started like banging them together and I'm just like, hey, hey, hey. So I just started yelling at them and clacking my things and they stopped.
Yeah.
And so then we just kind of looked at each other for maybe like 2 seconds. So then the dogs came back, put them on the leash, and then we just started walking back. And I'd take about 20 steps and I'd turn around and they weren't running, but they were like following.
Yeah.
And I would start clacking the things again and I'd start screaming and they'd stop again.
Yeah.
And this went on, that could have gone on for 40 seconds or 4 hours. They were about 200 feet away.
Yeah.
And I look back and most of them were starting to head back the other way across the lake, except for the one. The one just kind of sat in the middle of the lake. 2 of them started pacing on the other side of the lake. And then 6 of them just disappeared into the trees. And of course, I don't know about anybody else, but my imagination was just like, and they're howling. And I'm like, oh my God, is the howling getting closer? Like I was just obviously imagining the absolute worst case scenario and I was scared. Like I really was. Again, I've never encountered anything like this, so it was really hard. So anyway, I walked near these big hydro towers for a reason, so I didn't know what else to do, so I climbed the hydro tower.
Yeah.
About 12 feet up, and I called a friend of mine who still works for ECC, and she called the wildlife line, and a couple of seconds later the officer, Danny Bolio. Danny, if you're listening, you're still my hero. Danny was amazing. Like he stayed on the phone with me the whole time because I could see them, right? Like I could see the dog still laying in the middle of the lake or lying there and like looking at us. And I could see the other 2 pacing on the other side. Stayed with me the whole time.
Wow.
And was like just magic. And then I could see him cresting the hill and I came down and, we started walking back. Part of me, a very small part of me is like, I'm honored. Like what an incredible sight. Like how many people get to see these beautiful, majestic, they're incredible animals. Like they're part of our nature. But I think for me, the big thing that's come out of this is how little I know and how little probably most yellowknifers and NWTers really know about wolf behavior and what to do if they encounter something like this. We do so much about bear awareness, but it's also up to us as citizens of Mother Nature to learn more about this kind of stuff.
I'm Kathleen Goldhar, host of a new podcast, Crime Story. Every week, we bring you a different crime, told by the storyteller who knows it best. All the ins and outs.
It was a story of murder, of exploitation of a schoolgirl.
You got one witness who can't be found. You got another witness who has changed his entire story.
I remember just this feeling of like complete disbelief.
Crime Story, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
You are constantly on the move, and so are we, making sense of the moments that matter together.
Looks like things are maybe winding down.
Asking what, why, when.
To the center of the biggest stories, meeting the people living them.
Thank you for letting us be here. What's your situation?
Making sense of our world.
How are we going to be part of this solution?
With you and for you.
Connectedness, groundedness.
I'm Adrienne Arsenault. This is The National.
It's gonna have to be 2 people, Liza. Do you think you can do that?
I think I can.
I feel so much pressure to not do the thing that I know will make everything.
Canadians of generations have been miseducated.
But we don't talk about that. We are here. We have been here.
These stories are us.
Yeah, dog!
Oh, an absolute classic.
All right. Let's go! Yeah!
This is The National.
Every week, the issues that matter to Canadians.
These are acts of desperation.
Connecting politics to people.
Some people have lost everything.
Join me for Rosemary Barton Live.
It If you have a kid in your home or your life, chances are they have dabbled, perhaps even become a little obsessed with Minecraft. The popular video game has been around for a while, and it shows no signs of losing its popularity. Now, as Maurice Katz discovers, that popularity is being used to bring Indigenous heritage into the classroom.
This is just the welcoming post or house post. It's amazingly done.
For Councillor John Peters, the original Minecraft has always been a way he could connect with his son on the autism spectrum.
Seeing something like Minecraft that incorporates the teachings of Coquitlam First Nations is just simply amazing. I'm actually so excited that I can't wait to have my turn with my sons on this game.
The Coquitlam First Nation, along with School District 43 and Microsoft, have teamed up to create a new Minecraft world called the Pacific Northwest Coast Experience.
How it began was we had our STEAM teacher come to us to say we have this wonderful tool called Minecraft. Can we find a way to use that to help with Indigenous storytelling here in our territory? I thought, what a wonderful idea. And it just grew from there.
I just think it's so amazing that they're just working together.
As a knowledge keeper, Peters says it's a valuable tool to teach younger generations Indigenous values.
Wood box, this is an example of one, and you can store stuff in it.
Like important, like things that have meaning to you
in it. Yeah, and that's what we're making right now.
I'm connected to these lands for thousands of years, so the bloodline I carry, I'm obligated to take care of these lands. But to have other people be aware of the importance of it and how the land can give back to you, that's what I love about the concept of this game.
In the classroom, Marina Meredith says it's rare to see her students so engaged and excited to learn.
It's amazing the endless opportunities in there of what they can discover, what they can build, all the animals and different land features that they've included to represent the local land. It's great to learn in that way instead of just a textbook or kind of these older traditional styles. It's really fun and engaging.
There were some big software changes needed to make the new world truly Indigenous.
We asked them for is, number one, we have to have cedar. It is the heart of the whole community here on the West Coast. And so they were gracious enough to actually rename and reskin certain trees that were in the game so that we could have cedar. We didn't have bears. We had polar bears, but not bears. And in our lower mainland, there's bears everywhere. We have to have those.
The core concept of Minecraft, which is to collect and exploit the resources around you, is now turned right on its head.
We're only allowed to catch one. We want to be resourceful and not waste food.
The message is take only what you need and leave the rest for the others who come behind you.
Traditions and technology coming together in a new way.
In our history, there's not a lot to be proud of. Our nation has went through a lot. We're borderline hopelessness. But something like this, like I said, we could share for thousands of years.
Cedar, bears, and salmon in the Minecraft world are just the beginning, with 10 more Indigenous experiences in the works. Maurice Katz, CBC News, Coquitlam.
It's the first step in the monumental, months-long process of building the Snow King's Castle in Yellowknife. Ice harvesting on frozen Yellowknife Bay. Snow Castle crew members are busy cutting, chiseling, and carving blocks of ice as they prepare for the 29th annual castle, and we were there to check it out.
What we're doing is we're cutting panels of ice for the castle. There's like about 1 inch of overflow on top that makes it opaque. What we call that is marzipan. I know that's a baking term, but we refer to it in our Snow King lexicon as marzipan ice. It's not really the best quality for windows, etc., but it'll suffice because now with the cold weather, this hole here will refreeze nice and clear, and we'll be able to recut from the same hole. That's what we do every year. Are you familiar with Antonio Gotti? So we're taking our inspiration from that fella. A beautiful array of work that man was able to do. Most notably the Familia Sagrada Familia, the Sacred Family. Yes, the big chapel in Barcelona.
Are you serious? That's very ambitious. Wow.
Well, we're not going to build it that big. Settle down. Like, that guy's still working on. Well, he's dead, but he's still got his people working on it there. Like, settle down, Mark.
I'm settled. All right. We're going to be back and bigger than ever. We're hoping to have a little bit bigger grand hall, lots of shows. Of course, Joe Snow's slide is always a big attraction, so taking a few rips down the slide, of course, and just all the festivities and merriment that go along with the castle. Just looking forward to it all.
Just a nice little community building event, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And it's good for the community too. You know what I mean? Like, you imagine being a little person and you're bottled up for 4 months and you really can't properly play, and then all of a sudden there's this magical castle that appears and you get to go slide and explore and have fun. I just wish I could be a kid again, man, and see it through those eyes, you know what I mean? Because it must be impressive through 6 or 7-year-olds' eyes.
It's impressive through any eyes. I cannot wait for the castle to be done. That is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Here's a look at the weather as we go. Have a good night.
When I arrived in Canada, there were not many women who looked like me. Not everyone was welcoming. But my husband made a new life here in this distant country. And I thought here I could belong. And many others could too. As the years went on, our town flourished. Our community worked together and took care of each other. Our children grew up with a true sense of belonging. Here in Baldi, we built our home, and we wanted others to do the same.
Established by South Asian immigrants in 1917, the mill town of Baldi, British Columbia was one of Canada's first inclusive multicultural communities.
You're not a millennial.
Yeah, well, Dr. Dre's not a doctor. I feel like such an imposter.
You need money to survive.
He had something to hide.
Try typing with your thumbs.
What do you call it?
It's called a blackberry.
Huh. We call them crackberries.
There's a serial killer on the loose.
2 attacks in a week.
Go on. Everybody's got something to hide.
We're not gonna be here forever, right? Makes me want to make some changes.
Your family can't take much more.
Think you're a better driver when you're high? Think again. No alcohol, no drugs, no victims. A message from Mad Canada.
I want my children home where they should be.
You'll go to jail if you don't sign.
There's gonna come a time you'll feel the darkness. You don't let them win.
I understand that you're struggling emotionally.
Sure you want to do this?
I mean, it's research, right? You need to stop asking me for things I can't give you. You've done it my whole life.
We have an incredible show lined up for you tonight.
Wow!